Hey guys, my name is Loveless and we are back with Quirk Knife. Okay, so I plan to do something a little bit special. I plan to put a story, another audio podfic type thing that's on AO3 in the description. It's so good. It's kind of similar to the Malodito because it's very sad, but it's very sad. Yeah, but it's so good. It's like it hurt, but it was like good hurt because you kind of sign up for you sign up for hurt when you're dealing with angst and stuff. So yeah, a little bit of masochism, I guess, but that's just how it be. Okay, so let's get straight into it. I don't get it, Dobby said while punching the villain out cold. Can't you just hack the school? Give him more points? Izuku tightened his ponytail, reaching into his backpack and pulling out zip ties along with burn cream. He would never forgive me if I did that. Ever. Dobby simply hummed and adjusted the bandana over the lower half of his face. I suppose. But that doesn't mean that he has to find out. Dobby! Izuku hissed. No, it's wrong. I'm not going to do that, and even if I did, Nezu works there. I may be smart, but that dude is on the next level. Dobby applied some burn cream onto his elbows and forearms. Fine, I get it. Good, Izuku hummed as he finished the cleanup. Let's go. We've only taken down 2 this patrol. Shitty number. The 2 continued down the street in silence, Izuku feeling strange needing to feel it. You know, I looked at some of the other examinees. I was just curious. Dobby ignored him, not exactly interested in the conversation like this. Izuku thought. Reading social cues wasn't always his best skill, and he continued. Yeah, Shoto Todoroki made it on recommendations. It's good for him, right? Fuck off. What? I know we haven't really talked about it, and I would never tell anyone, I swear. But don't you want to know how your Zuku, fuck off before I decide to kill you. Izuku flinched slightly at the tone, his feet stilling as he stared with wide eyes. Dobby he wouldn't. The smaller boy began to tremble and Dobby stopped, his furious expression disappearing right away when he looked over his shoulder, Dobby reaching a hand out to fix things, but Izuku flinched violently and raised his hands in front of his face, squeezing his eyes shut to embrace himself. Why are you doing that? Dobby asked quietly, his voice on edge. Izuku, why? Stop that! Izuku felt hot liquid run down his cheeks, traced the edge of his mask and slipping down further, splashing onto his uniform. He refused to lower his arms, but he carefully looked up, his fight-or-flight instincts screaming flight. Fucking stop that! Dobby roared, and Izuku took another step back as blue flames engulfed the figure of the man he was supposed to trust. What happened to that trust? How did it disappear so easily? Dobby stepped forward to match Izuku's retreating, and he couldn't do it anymore, not with the heat clinging to his skin, causing his inner alarm to screech within him. Dobby never got the chance to shout again, as Izuku spun, his boots pounding against the pavement as he ran, sprinting away, twisting and turning each way to ensure his safety, because Kacchan would catch up and... Where are you hiding, Deku? Izuku slammed a hand over his mouth as he could hear the footsteps approaching, the smell of sweet nitroglycerin getting strong. At 8 years old, Izuku had grown accustomed to hiding, staying as silent as he can until the threat passed over. The threat never does. Don't be a fucking coward now, Katsuki spat, pausing outside the door of the janitor's closet. You were so confident defending that stupid girl earlier, mouthing off at me. Come fight me now, Deku. Let's me blow you to bits. Silent tears slipped out of Izuku's green eyes, wide and full of fear. He couldn't fight Kachan. That would be a death wish. Besides, the gashes on Izuku's arms would only slow him down. Deku! Kachan screamed. Suddenly, an involuntary whimper escaped Izuku's mouth, causing his entire body to tremble even more violently. A snicker. Izuku heard it as the doorknob twisted slightly, turning slowly and gently, so unlike Kachan. The door swung open, and Izuku lifted his eyes, Kachan's shadow looming over him, his calloused hands held high with sparks already causing the small room to glow. Izuku watched the teacher pass. The woman paused with a curious look, then replaced by a pleased smile as she continued. Were Kachan's objective not obvious? Shouldn't the teacher stop him and help the No. Izuku is no victim. He refuses to call himself that. Stay still, Deku, Kachan spat, but Izuku couldn't. He couldn't just sit still. So Izuku got up and swung a fist at random, feeling the exact moment when it met Kachan's cheek. The ash blonde stumbled back a couple steps in shock, bringing a hand up to his red blotched on his face. Izuku's eyes grew even wider in panic. What possessed him to do that? When will he learn to stop his body from moving before he could think? Kachan hissed. Fucking stop that! Izuku was slammed against the ground and the wind was knocked right out of his lungs, his spine vibrating from the impact. A hot hand rammed against his right hip and another against the outside of his thigh. The explosion caused Izuku's ears to ring. He couldn't even shout. The words wouldn't come out. Why wouldn't they come out? You fucking deserve this. Remember that, Deku. This is your fault, no one else's. Izuku stayed in the closet for the rest of the school day, his clothes practically melted to his skin, and his right side blistering, bleeding in all too familiar fashion. None of the teachers came looking for him, and Izuku didn't have any friends to take care of him. Kachan made sure he was friendless the day he was discovered as quirkless. They treated him like a disease. Izuku sniffed. No, it wasn't their fault. It was his. Even Kachan said so. And Kachan was always right. It was all Izuku's fault. He deserved the pain. Izuku tripped, slamming his head on the ground, and his skin tore against the concrete, only stopping when his back rammed into a dumpster. This wasn't Kachan or Hisashi. It was just Dabi. Why did he react that way? Izuku shakily reached for his phone and sent a location to a familiar contact, typing out a quick message to ensure the receiver understood that he wasn't in danger. He curled in on himself and held his knees to his chest, his breaths coming out shallow and wet. Izuku could wait this time, because now Kachan wasn't here, and he had friends to take care of him. Fuck, 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 fuck! Hitoshi chanted repeatedly as he slammed his hands on the cold metal door, letting himself in since it was always unlocked. The smell of burnt rubber assaulted his nose, but now was not the time, so he instead waved the smoke away from his face. Let's fucking go! Without an explanation, pink hair mixed with soot came sprinting from the smoke, and a gloved hand snatched the simple iron mask hanging by the door. Hitoshi following the slamming the building shut. Go fucking where? May asked, despite already following Hitoshi faithfully. Message location from Izuku. Nothing from Dabi. Said he wasn't in danger. But that bitch is also a fucking liar. Hitoshi spoke quickly, adjusting the new purple cat mask May had made for him for this exact emergency. Not that it was technically an emergency, but it also was. I'm ready, May screeched as she pulled out a large gun out of nowhere, and Hitoshi would have eaten dirt in shock if his capture weapon wasn't fast enough to keep him up. What the fuck is that? How did you get that? It's a flamethrower. May cackled evilly. Let's burn some bitches. Mei ignited the flames and held it towards the sky. Hitoshi screamed at her. Don't run with a flamethrower! I shouldn't have to tell you that. Mei turned the weapon off, but never lowered it. I don't know what to tell you, Fluffy. Always gotta be ready to kill. What the fuck is wrong with you? Hitoshi stared down at his phone, trusting Mei would shout at him if they were about to wipe out or something. She probably wouldn't, but whatever. Mei was beginning to pant from the speed they were running at, but refused to slow down or complain. That was one thing Izuku somehow managed to teach everyone he met. You never fucking stop if you can help it. Down here, Hitoshi said as they slowed, peering into a weird-smelling alley. Mei held her flamethrower in the direction and made the decision to announce her presence. Hey, assholes, I have a fire gun, and I'll light you up with the courtesy of Mei Hatsumi. Hitoshi fought the urge to facepalm and instead examined the scene, seeing no signs of fight or danger. Chaos? He called cautiously, a sniffle catching his attention. Izuku gave a weak wave. Hitoshi and Mei rushed over, collapsing at his side, and glancing over him for any injuries. Any blood? Who am I burning? Mei asked, swinging that stupid gun around, until Hitoshi snatched it and yanked it out of her hands. Would you stop it with the arson? That's Dobby's job. Izuku tensed up at Dobby's name, and Hitoshi cocked his head. What did Dobby do? Izuku didn't say anything, and Mei checked what setting his mask was on, confused when it wasn't on silent. Chaos, can you talk? She asked again. Your mask isn't on silent. Izuku just shrugged, with his eyes cast down low, and Hitoshi crossed his arms. We're going back. You've had enough today. Let's go. Go where? Mei asked for the second time that night. We can go to my place if you want, like my actual place, where I have heating and a bed and a shower. You smell kind of funky, both of you. Hey, to be fair, I got right out of bed and took off with my mask. There was no deodorant or dry shampoo involved. Hitoshi defended himself. He was a hygienic person, usually. Mei hoisted Izuku to his feet, and the greenette swayed for a moment, then wrapped his arms around his chest and started walking. Hitoshi watched him for a moment as Mei scooped her flamethrower up and skipped off with it, singing some weird song in a different language. French? Italian? Mei was definitely butchering the foreign language either way. Hitoshi adjusted his capture weapon and moved to follow, but his gut instinct had him twisting around with thin eyes. There was movement on the rooftop above, and the figure quickly dug down, but Hitoshi's eyes were fast. Izuku was upset. Mei was Mei, and Hitoshi was sleep-deprived and not in the mood. Hey, fuck you. Hitoshi flipped the figure off. If you saw a kid freaking out and just stood there instead of checking up on him, choke on this. He exaggerated his middle finger for a moment longer and spun around, stuffing his hands into his pocket and stumping off, not noticing the underground hero watching him go. The underground hero was just flipped off and shouted at. Izuku was silent the whole way back to Mei's house, just a street away from her family's lab. My mom is out with her friend. They went out to some theater and they're staying at a fancy hotel, so we don't have to worry about that, Mei informed as she unlocked the front door. Hitoshi led Izuku in, and Mei shut the door behind her, kicking her shoes off at random and skipping into the kitchen. I'll make a late dinner. Early breakfast? Whatever. I'm not supposed to use the stove or oven because last time I burnt down half the kitchen and part of the living room. But I think I'll do it. Hitoshi interrupted. How about you show Izuku to the bathroom and I can handle the food? Mei nodded with a huge smile and took Izuku's wrist. This way. Once standing alone, Hitoshi whipped out his phone and clicked on Dabi's contact, his finger moving quickly. Toshi, what did you do? Hitoshi waited for several moments. Dabi usually responds as soon as possible. He was left on red. The purple-haired teen swore and slammed his phone down on the counter with a little more strength than necessary, keeping his anger at bay while busying himself with searching for ingredients. 5 minutes later, Mei returned with Izuku clinging to her heels. He won't take a shower. Hitoshi set the pot down on the stove and blinked. Izuku, why don't you want to take a shower? The greenhead stared at the floor, with his mask hanging uselessly around his neck. His lips parted, but no words would come out. Hitoshi knew it would be pointless to try to make his small friend talk. So instead, he pointed to the couch, and Izuku shuffled over there, tossing his mask along with his boots and collapsing onto the couch, curling back in on himself. Mei frowned and hopped onto the kitchen counter, swinging her legs back and forth as she watched him. Hitoshi just cooked something sweet and simple, some soba with green onions. When he handed it to Izuku, he pushed it away, refusing to eat, not even answering Hitoshi's question, which tossed the option of brainwashing out the window. As a last resort, Hitoshi squished himself onto the couch beside Izuku and lifted the boy to rest on top of him, awkwardly wrapping his arms all the way around his back while green hair brushed against his neck. Mei squealed in excitement and slid herself between the stacked bodies, wrapping one arm around the both of them and pulling them tighter. We're gonna be okay, Hitoshi mumbled quietly, and Mei hummed in agreement. Of course, we always are. Just get out of my sight. You'll eat tomorrow. You didn't earn it today. Toya looked up at his father, but it was difficult to see with the blood clouding his vision. His stomach growled involuntarily, and Endeavor's eyes twitched. If you were hungry, you should have trained harder. Get out. Toya didn't need to be told twice as he stumbled from the smoke-filled training room, gripping the raw skin of his arms in pain. He tumbled past his mother in the kitchen, holding 4-year-old Shoto close to her chest as she whispered to him, smiling. She never smiled around Toya. The food on the table was tempting. It was so tempting, but he knew it would only get worse if Endeavor found out. A risk that wasn't worth it. Toya often lost his appetite anyways. He continued dragging his feet against the coldness of the wooden floor, trying to retie his arms with old bandages he already used on his last training session. Hey, Toya! White hair bounded up, Natsu clutching a soccer ball against his chest. Want to play with Fumi and I? Toya spared a glance at his younger brother, then out the window where Fumi was tying her shoes up, patiently waiting for her brothers to return. Toya? The red-haired boy paused, feeling something spill from his eyes that for once wasn't blood. The ball slipped from Natsu's hand as Toya crashed down onto his knees, shuddering sobs slipping their way from deep inside his chest. He was so weak. He couldn't even keep it together for his younger siblings. That was his job. Toy? Natsu said gently. It's okay. Don't be sad. Toy shook his head and scrunched his nose against the back of his hands. It's fine. I'm fine, Nats. I don't think you're fine. Natsu hesitated. And that's okay. No, because Toya needs his pride. It's all he really had left. Really, I'm all good. I think I'm just tired, you know? Natsu's gray eyes looked over his older brother with skepticism, but eventually nodded. Yeah, I guess. Toya hauled himself back onto his feet. At least he didn't cry any bloody tears like last week. That was strange. He was afraid that would become a regular occurrence. I'll be out in a few minutes, Toya mumbled. Just gonna take a quick shower. The smile that was on Natsu's face was worth it. The smaller boy skipped away, running back to Fumi to tell her the good news, causing Toya's twin to smile as well. Good. At least they were happy. Back in his small room, Toya took the time to bandage himself up since Ray never offered anymore. It made getting his back difficult, not to mention trying to wrap his jaw properly. Why? Toya whispered as he stared at himself in the mirror. What's the point? Is this what life's supposed to be? Even at the young age of 11, Toya knew the future held nothing for him. After seeing what the number 2 hero really was, it tends to destroy the concept of heroes. Toya no longer wanted to be one. He wanted to play soccer with Natsu. He wanted to paint with Fumi. He wanted to teach Shoto how to read. He just wanted a hug from his mom. Toya ran a hand over the patch of white hair that was growing from the roots at the bottom of his head. Then another one just above his ear. Maybe if his hair came in, he would look more like Mom and she would come see him more. Maybe. Toya closed the door to his room and began his way down the hall, until flames engulfed his path. Where are you going? Endeavor sneered. You have homework to do. But Natsu wants me to play soccer, Toya mumbled in a small voice, too scared to speak any louder. Is that any way to speak to your father? Endeavor bent down. Look me in the eyes. Toya couldn't, fear completely causing him to freeze up, and Endeavor's flame grew hotter. You're a coward, a waste of a quirk. Something inside Toya snapped at that moment, and tears bubbled up. I never asked for this quirk. The minute the large hand reared backwards, Toya raised his arms in front of his face and squeezed his eyes shut, just in time to feel the impact of raw skin on his arm, splitting the flesh open. Read the books, or we can do more training. Is that understood, Toya? He didn't respond fast enough and received a foot in the stomach. I said, is that understood, Toya? Yes, sir. He scampered to the back of his room without invitation and shut the door quietly, climbing up into the chair of his desk and opening the chapter to 28. Is this what life is? Because if it was, Toya no longer wants it. Dabi curled himself deeper into Zuku's blanket. His phone cracked and forgotten across the warehouse from where he received Shinso's message. Dabi's eyes stayed trained on the door even as the sun began to rise. When will Zuku be home? Dabi quickly wiped a small drop of blood that fell from the corner of his eyes and lifted one of the blankets over his head. Being alone was scary now. It was just himself and his thoughts. Dabi wanted a cigarette, but Izuku would be angry, so no cigarette. Dabi wanted to light something on fire, but Izuku would be angry, so no arson. When did he become so accustomed to others' feelings and not wanting to hurt them? Since when did he begin caring? The image of Izuku holding his arms in front of his face wouldn't fade. All Dabi could see was himself, but that means in the moment he was his father. Was he Endeavor? Had he really become the one sole thing he exists to destroy? Another drop of blood trailed over the tip of his nose and fell onto the blanket, Dabi smearing it lightly in annoyance, scoffing at his weakness. The sun was now up, but he couldn't find the courage to dig himself out of the blankets, so he didn't. When the door finally creaked open, Dabi nearly shot up and bursted into tears. Well, blood. Izuku walked in and stopped in the doorway, his expression blank. Dabi choked out. Where was he supposed to start? What was he supposed to say? A simple sorry wouldn't be enough, that's for sure. I don't want to be my father, Dabi blurted, crossing his legs and squeezing his knees. To make you react like that. I obviously fucking failed with that one promise I made to myself, to never become like him. Izuku, I can't make the promise I won't lash out again. I can't make the promise I won't yell. But I can make the promise that I will never lay an unwanted finger on you. I swear to you. Izuku looked off to the side, his hand coming up to wipe his nose. Dabi was spewing out thoughts now, and he didn't know how to stop himself. Izuku, I've fucked up so much in life, but I'm tired of acting like a coward. I let Endeavor push me around, hurt my family. I was too weak to do anything, but I won't be too weak now. I'll protect you, just like you protect me. Because I consider you a fucking friend, alright? Don't make me say that shit again. Green crashed into him and squeezed his torso tightly, wrapping his tiny legs around the larger man's waist. How about we get some burgers for lunch, hmm? Dobby grunted, not quite hugging Izuku back, instead patting the top of his head gently. Izuku nodded in silence, and that was all Dobby needed. He may have fucked up, but he'll die before he stops trying his damn best to fix his fuck-ups. Yay, we're done! Woohoo! I think I'm actually getting better at this. Like, I was like at the very end, I was like able to get the emotion across, kinda. Or I think I was. I was trying my best. But so also, if you didn't hear at the very beginning, I do plan to put a little audio podfic that I found. Since it's already in podfic form, don't plan to just voice that. Someone already did it. I'm just gonna give them the credit down below in the description below. So I'm still a little bit mad at Dobby because, yeah, he fucked up, but I kind of just want to smack him. Like, just bitch slap him real hard. Like, just one. It was one smack because he deserves it. But he is trying to fix it. So, but also he's still scared the shit out of Izuku. But Izuku's kind of fragile. Like, he's strong, but he's fragile. So, yeah. If you want to see more of this and more of my ramblings at the end, you know what to do.